the human in the loop, and the LLMs are eroding my software engineering career, and I don't know what to do. As I'm a software engineer, completing 10 years of professional experience this year. I started my career as a web front-end engineer. It was easier for me to debug front-end code backend. Then I chose the path, but shortly transitioned to web backend and never looked back. Though a series of confidence once I stepped into a backend development, I ended up working in software development roles in the domains of finance, bookkeeping, and payment processing, where I had a great autonomy and a close and candidate relationship with the product manager and the stakeholders. And I learned a lot about the domain and how to effectively write programs for it. PCI compliance, double entry ledgers, and escrows and reconciliation, payment lifecycle, bank transfer, idempotency, and etc. It was then obvious that I should focus my career on becoming an expert in a domain to stand out the professional and differentiated myself in a field that showed signs of increasing need for domain specialists. The first pillar to erode domain-specific knowledge. Last year, I got hired by a company in the finance workspace. So far, I had worked on companies that do have a strong payment and finance component to their operations offerings, but they were not solely finance-focused companies. The company also embraced AI wholeheartedly, so I got ChatGPT and Cloud Enterprise account from day one and was encouraged to use them for my research, exploration, and even coding, albeit with the warning that I should still review and own every single line that made it into production. One of my first projects involved reworking the legacy online payment system, which was a mess. They hired me for, among other things, my previous experience in building that and trusted me with the task. Different from other companies I had worked for so far, they wanted the design docs I write before coding to readable by both engineers and product managers. So they shouldn't be a technical deep dive and more of an architectural view. I wrote my first one with minimal AI assistance. I even called LLMs the stochastic palette at the time, a view I no longer hold, and delivered it. I valued my knowledge and though no LLMs could replace it. Then my manager reached out to me, even though you are delivering code at a good pace, you're taking too long to deliver those design docs. Are you using AI? You shouldn't use more AI. No way this will work. I thought in my head, but agreed. The models at the time were not as good as the ones we have now. They didn't provide a good speed up on my writing and even the decision making. And then I started realizing all the knowledge I have accumulated over the years, the trade-offs between the implementations, how accounting works, how to structure idempotency to prevent double charge it, everything was become useless. Even though the model still needed some steering, they could connect the dots on how to structure such systems, which was the hardest part that they only develops in your brain after years of the hands-on experience. That was my first shock. But sure, I thought they can do that because there's plenty of articles on the web on how that shit works along with all the technical documentation. And we have the blog post explaining how to apply the technical tools to the domain. For humans, it may take a long time to learn all that, but that's training data so models can pick it up. What models will never be good at, that the where humans will shine, is debugging. I have accumulated a good experience debugging race conditions and distributed systems in production. That was my ticket to long-term employability. The second pillar to erode debugging and distributed systems. So after LLMs started getting good at writing docs and help plan the actual implementation, they become good at coding. It started in the second half of 2025 with Cloud Code hype, then a Codex came, and so on. Although I was using LLMs for writing unit tests every day before that, I wasn't trusting them to write the full implementation yet. The next step was to introduce more AI into writing code. And honestly, I liked it. I like shipping things to the production and seeing users happy as much as I like coding. So I was trading one thing that I like for another one that I also like. It was fair. LLMs were becoming good at coding, but it still couldn't debug the mess left behind by them or by humans. So I still had a role that was bigger than stealing the robot, a ticket to employment. Everything seems fine. The MCPs, the agentic workflow, and a Cloud 4.5 and the sky started to fall. Cloud 4.5, to be honest, was that good. It solved like 50% of the bugs given a stack trace and some context. A Sentry link with the Sentry MCP enablers was all it took in most cases. Sometimes it gave a solution that surrounded the pro server but was totally wrong. This time, however, I stopped doubting the machine. I saw bugs that the past would easily take one day of full-time debugging being one-shotted by the cloud code. Of course, not all of them yet, but the pattern was clear. Then came 4.6, 4.7, GPT 5.5, Opus 4.8, and the debug dog MCP. Now I have realized that one-shot bugs across distributed system for me, bugs that I couldn't solve in the past, bugs that would take 2 days of full-time debugging, bugs across the distributed systems that lack distributed observability. 90% of the bugs are one-shot are one-shotted now, including by bizarre race conditions, unexpected corner cases, third-party integration issues, undocumented API edge cases, everything. I hardly have to intervene. Of course, I'm still employable because someone has to review the code and steal the robot. But I'm just another official engineer now. I have no domain expertise that another senior engineer steering an LLM cannot match. All my finance and payment domain expertise, all the debugging intuition and distributed system knowledge earned through hours and sweat and tears is now promptable. We were taught that generalists and specialists will always have their roles. But now the market is shaping everyone into a generalist. That's not a bad thing per se. Until you look under the economics of the supply and demand. If everyone is generalist, the price of the generalist falls if there's no demand to match. And we all know the demand is drying up. The third pillar, the one that hasn't eroded yet, called quality and architecture. I still have one pillar standing, though, code quality and software architecture. What's now being reduced to being called tasty. Along the course of my career, I always like to refactor, always price good code and a negotiated time in the sprint for it. DDD, hexagonal. As clean architecture, you know all the buzzwords. I like this topic. I like to discuss the trade-offs and different ideas on how to shape code bases. I really like it. This is the last pillar standing. Except that nobody cares anymore. Agents do a bad job at keeping code bases organized. If we don't steer them, they heal a circular dependency issue sooner than you think. We'll duplicate code, add unnecessary commands, mix up the pure function side effect. Disregard the principles of solid that should keep humans employed, except that this skill is now being reduced to the word tasty. But it's just but it's not just a renaming. The industry is moving to a world where code organization is less important. Sure, humans should steal the agent to prevent spaghetti code bases with a circular dependency graphs. We don't want elaborate code bases that are impossible to touch without breaking something. But a C or D it's now fine. Nobody needs A or B grade code bases anymore because they are being made for LLMs, not for humans to read. I don't want to argue if this is inherently good or bad. If the source code is now written for machines to read and not humans, it may be actually okay to target them. But that's another pillar of my expertise that's eroding. A good chunk of the knowledge I accumulated on the topic is not that valuable anymore. All the time I spend on it, reading books and doing real work exercises, discussing with other engineers with ARDs is becoming useless. What now? I'm still employed and I see myself deep employed at least in that company for a foreseeable future, but I don't know what to do think about the long term. I spent 10 years, even more when I account for non-professional experience, getting food at the things that have become the less and less valuable. My last pillars of expertise is now reduced to a tasty and will probably won't last long. And I know that's not just me. About 8 months ago, there was a layoff at my current company, not related to AI, according to them. Some brilliant ex-co-workers were laid off and are still looking for jobs. Most of them suffer from the same problem I outlined here. Their domain expertise is not enough to stand out anymore. The company is now hiring again for a few roles and a domain Familiarity is not a strong differentiator anymore. We used to list the software engineer area. Now it's just a software engineer. And then the team assignment comes after the offer is accepted. Of course, this is good for brilliant engineers that never had the chance to get deep into the domain and now have better chances to getting a job. But it's also sad to think that other brilliant engineers that spend their lives collecting domain knowledge are now competing on the same lane. The only way out for keeping my employability in the long term now seems to shift my domain expertise to something LLMs will not get good at so easily. But what's left? I thought about going back to college, learning math, statistics, and advanced machine learning and applying for research role at Frontier Lab, except that there is no Frontier Labs in my country. The few ones that exist flooding with applications, and I have family matters that makes moving to another country difficult. But by the time I can afford to make that jump, RSI may have made researchers obsolete. Maybe I should be considering transforming my woodworking hobby into a profession. I read this article today. The LLMs are eroding my software engineering career, and I don't know what to do. Thank you for your time. See you next time.